Hello and welcome to another edition of 310 to Left, presented by your New England Ford dealers and F-Series, America's best-selling truck for 48 years, and the official truck of the Boston Red Sox. Tom Caron along with Alex Speier. It is September. The stretch run is here. The playoff race is upon us. We're scoreboard watching. We're paying attention to everything. Alex, this is what we've been missing for the last couple of years. Meaningful September baseball.
Not fake meaningful September baseball. And really, we kickstarted our way into the month, Tom, with your first pitch at Fenway Park. I need to take a moment to just say, like, as someone who has had the anxiety of throwing a couple of first pitches in minor league games, doing so incredibly unimpressively, like, thought you crushed it. Like, I don't know what your feedback has been like, but really, I thought that you were the tone setter for the month of, as we enter the month of September.
Yeah, I set the tone for Paul Skeens and Payton Tolle. I like to think they saw me and then went right after it. Here's what I've learned, Alex, and we have both been fortunate enough to throw out some first pitches. I had done it at Portland and Worcester, but neither time was I allowed to get on the rubber. And again, I wasn't allowed. In Portland, I was on the front of the mound. Yeah. I was on the dirt, but there was a pitcher on the rubber behind me, so I couldn't get back there. And then there had been rain in Worcester, and they put like a mat down on the grass and said, stand there. And that wasn't good. So my goal here, I researched this extensively, Alex. There are three things I believe you want to accomplish if you throw a first pitch, okay? For you youngsters who are getting ready for the first time. Stand on the rubber, especially in the case of what we do, because if you don't, it doesn't matter what you do from that point forward. They're going to crush me on the pregame, postgame show for the rest of my life for not getting on the rubber, right? And the whole goal here was not to get crushed by our studio guys. That's right.
You're playing defense. And
if you're on the grass, 100% chance of getting crushed. So you might as well take a 50-50 chance of throwing off the rubber, see what happens, okay? That brings us up to number 2. Don't bounce it. You cannot bounce it, okay? You have to reach the catcher, which I did. Alex Cora is behind the plate.
Yeah.
And then number 3.
Even in a crouch, that like creating that up the degree of difficulty. It wasn't just the standing, I know. He was in the crouch. I wasn't thrilled that he got down there. And then don't do an ephus. There can't be an exaggerated arc. Like, you can't sort of lob it from, you got to throw a pitch. And so having said all that, I will say this, like, in real time, your mind is operating at a speed that it was long enough that I saw the pitch sinking. And the back of my mind screamed, it's not going to make it. And I was like a nanosecond, well, probably like 3 seconds because it was such a slow pitch. But for a moment, I was in mortal fear and had he pulled that glove back just a hair, it would have bounced, okay? But good sink, deceptive delivery, I thought, hiding the spin rate out of the shoulder. Jonathan Papelbon, I've gotten 2 bits of a professional review on this. Jonathan Papelbon said I throw like his 17-year-old daughter, very similar mechanics. And Liam Hendricks asked me if I ever thought that maybe I was actually left-handed after watching me throw with the right hand. So not everybody was universally impressed. But I got it there, Alex, and that's all. Like you said, playing defense, I got it there. But by the way, thanks to an amazing night. The Red Sox and Nesson went above and beyond. I had to continually say I'm not retiring because it felt like a retirement party. I was back the next day. Thanks for the reassurance here, Tom. 310 to left is this whole show is changing now.
I know you did send out in the text thread this morning, like, wait, you're not part of the interview? I could sort of fear that, suddenly you're on this alone. But no, here we are. Thank you. It was a great night. Amazing, humbled, and lucky to still be doing this with great people behind the scenes, people like you in front of the camera. That's why we keep doing it. So happy to be back. And now it's just another day, Labor Day, as we work into September. Big news, Aroldis Chapman signed the extension, pen to paper, the announcement made. We'll hear from him in a moment. But it's really interesting, Alex, that Craig Breslow has been able to nail down a couple of these things in season. And those in-season extensions are usually early in the year. This one is very rare, that you get a press conference on September 1st announcing an extension. But good on the Red Sox. He's been really good for this team in the back end of the bullpen.
pretty remarkable too that a guy who is so close to free agency, right? Like in the midst of a historic season, is like, you know what? I'm good. Like, I like exactly what's going on here, and I'm happy to stay around for at least another year. The vesting option, in which Chapman needs to just pitch 40 innings and finish the year healthy, also gives it a pretty decent chance of it being a 2-year contract. It's a little bit reminiscent of when Koji Uehara in 2013 ended up signing an extension with the Red Sox to stay on. I guess that was shortly after the end of the season, but he was like, you know what? Even though I had the best season you could possibly imagine as a reliever, I'm going to stick around. And what Chapman is doing is utterly remarkable, right? Like, we're up to, as we talk on Labor Day morning, he's up to 15 consecutive hitless appearances, which is the longest streak in Red Sox history. The longest, tied for the third longest in Major League history, longest by anyone since 2013. He has been overwhelmingly dominant. As a 37-year-old, it is insane to see a guy who's still pumping 100-mile-an-hour heaters and commanding better than he ever has, which actually that's a really interesting development that speaks both to his drive to continue to push himself to be better than he's been in what could very well be a Hall of Fame arc. Like, his career looks very similar to Billy Wagner's, except with a little more dominance, which is weird. And then also the Red Sox ability to work with him on some delivery consistency and some game planning stuff in order to get him in the strike zone more than he's ever been.
Yeah, I mean, best season of his career, which is saying something about a guy 16 years into his career with 8 All-Star appearances. I mean, this guy's had, as you said, a really good career. 2 more years, you may be talking about him by approaching Hall of Fame status at the end of those 2 years if he can stay healthy and keep doing this, because he's not that far off right now. A few more healthy years, and you know, right now he's as healthy as he's ever been, Alex.
Yeah, like I said, the Billy Wagner comp is a really interesting one because, you know, everyone was like, Billy Wagner, most dominant pitcher in Major League history by batting average against and by strikeout percentage. Well, actually, Chapman is better than him. It was just a question of where you set the innings threshold. So Chapman now is bumping up pretty close to that Billy Wagner innings threshold. By the end of, there's a pretty good chance that by the end of this contract, he would have about as many innings as Billy Wagner, and, you know, he would be right there statistically with him. So the on-field Hall of Fame candidacy is pretty compelling when you're thinking about guys who are among the most dominant closers in the history of the game.
All right, a lot of interesting pitching stuff to talk about right now. We're going to dig into all of it. Let's begin by hearing from Chapman. Here's what he said at the press conference as they officially announced the extension. It's Aroldis Chapman at the press conference here on 310 Left, presented by your New England Ford dealers.
Aroldis, you've played with a half dozen or so other organizations. What makes this a good fit, and what do you like so much about the organization and the city that you wanted to commit here?
No, una de las cosas es mi compañeros que tengo, creo que son excelentes. Tenemos muy buena química. Creo que es una de las cosas muy importantes, la unión que tenemos, la forma que nos relacionamos dentro y fuera del terreno, y también el staff de los coaches y en los trainer room, todo, y son una de las cosas muy importantes para mí, y es una de las cosas que tomé la decisión de querer quedarme aquí.
First and foremost, I feel like my teammates, the chemistry that we have here is unique. I feel like my teammates we're together in and off the field. Also, the coaching staff, the medical staff, trainers made the decision easy for me to want to stay here.
This contract will take you through at least age 38, maybe age 39. Do you know how long you want to pitch?
Nada, mientras esté saludable, mi brazo esté saludable, esté haciendo el trabajo, esté pudiendo ayudar a mi equipo, creo que estaré aquí jugando.
As long as I'm healthy and my arm is healthy, and I can help a team win, I'm going to be here, willing to help a team win and doing my job.
310 to Left is presented by your New England Ford dealers, who've been taking everyone out to the ball game at Fenway Park for decades. Catch Ford next time you're at Fenway, including in the Ford Clubhouse, a full-service bar perfect for bringing your lineup together and for recording our live edition of 310 to Left. It's all brought to you by your New England Ford dealers and F-Series, America's best-selling trucks for 48 years and the official truck of the Boston Red Sox. Well, it's certainly a boost for this team. I think the guys in the clubhouse to know that he's going to be the closer. But Alex, you talk about bullpens, and they always start from the back end, right? You begin with the closer, you work it forward. This has been a really good bullpen. I don't think there has been enough said about what this bullpen has meant to this team. Justin Slayton coming back, and he's still working his way back into form. You've had Whitlock as that eighth inning guy. Justin Wilson's been really good all season long. And Steven Matz has quietly been a really good addition to this team. There's a lot of reason to feel pretty good about this bullpen if you're going into the playoffs.
And it feels like one that Alex Cora is comfortable lining up against different areas of the opposing lineup, precisely because of what you're talking about, where you have three different left-handed options in Matz, Wilson, and Chapman, and then you also have Whitlock. The consistent second righty is still a little bit of a question mark for the Red Sox behind Whitlock. Whitlock has been fantastic. Slayton, you saw kind of exactly like where he should be, I think, in terms of that arc of coming back from a long layoff on Sunday, when he gives up a homer, but then he comes back, and you saw his best pitches thus far since he's been on this rehab arc, in order to strike out a couple of batters against the Pirates and get through the rest of that inning. Still waiting to see whether or not Greg Weissert can tap back into the dominance of the first half, or if it's going to be kind of this. He obviously has funk in his delivery. He's still a tough matchup for righties based on the arm slot and based on the stuff. But there's right now there's more contact than the Red Sox are probably comfortable with, and so the Red Sox are still looking for that second comfortable right on right lockup matchup. But there's still a little bit of time to play around with that.
And with the September call-up, you get another arm in there. Zach Kelly is the first man up, and again, gives them another option. See if Zach Kelly can get it going right on right. That could be part of that. We're talking pitching here in this episode of 310 to Left, and you've got to start with the guy who followed my lead on Friday night and threw strikes, Payton Tolle. Was just so much fun to watch. So much fun to watch his emotion, to watch him, after that first strikeout, striking out the first batter he ever faced, do that long lap around the mound and kind of look up and soak it all in. In an era where more and more athletes seem to be, robotic and pre-programmed from the analytics group, it was just fun to watch a young guy go out there and really have a good time out there and dominate the opposition. A really impressive debut for Payton Tolle.
Think about all of the emotions that go into that. I mean, you talked about how tough it was, like, getting on the mound for a first pitch for you, right? Like, think about it if you're doing it in a major league game with, like, all of a sudden, hey, Andrew McCutchen is in the box. And to be able to channel those, that energy, the nerves of that moment to control that, and to use that in a way that you amplify your velocity, you're throwing harder than you ever have, but you're still able to do so in the strike zone, and you're still able to enjoy this kind of overwhelming feeling where he's like, I stepped off the mound after the first inning and I couldn't feel my feet. Like, that's fantastic. And he's a wonderfully authentic, open person, in terms of obviously wanting to take joy in what he's doing and, like, not being shy about expressing that in a way that's really, really quite refreshing, but also that's probably helped him. Like, being a professional baseball player is typically filled with frustration. If you have a great outlook about it, then maybe that helps you to develop even faster than ordinarily you would, and Payton Tolle has developed really, really fast.
I love what he told us. You and I spoke with him the day after, and I love that he said every time I get the ball back from Alex Bregman, he would say, "Thank you, Alex Bregman. Thank you, Alex Bregman." Like when you bring your 5-year-old kid to work, and he says, "Hello, Jim Rice. Hello, Jim Rice. Yeah, thank you, Alex Bregman." That'll probably stop at some point, but it's pretty fun while it's going on.
Yeah, at a certain point, like, Bregman might be like, "Hey, man, just call me Alex." But I think that everyone gets a kick out of the fact that this is someone who's really enjoying where he is right now.
Couldn't say it better, Alex Speier. When you spoke with Justin Willard, he's director of pitching, and it's such an interesting time because you're talking about young guys developing, but also veterans, like you said, Aroldis Chapman saying, "You know what, I like what's going on here." And that really, for these guys, begins with the pitching group, right? And you're hearing more and more, whether it's Lucas Giolito, who we're going to hear from in a few minutes, or Brian Bayo, who continues development. They do seem to have, from Justin Willard, Craig Breslow, a former pitcher himself, Angel Bailey at the Major League pitching coach. They seem to have put together a group that players and pitchers are responding to here, Alex.
Yeah, to me, one of the most critical things in terms of overcoming the Red Sox kind of pendular existence, or just like their down period of the last few years, is: are you an organization that can take pitchers from one organization and help them get better, or that can take guys from amateur baseball and help them get better? If you're able to do that consistently, then you have a pretty good chance of winning consistently. The Red Sox this year have a number of success stories. Not all of them, right? Walker Buehler is no longer a member of the Red Sox because they couldn't help him find his mechanical consistency. But in a number of cases this year, they've helped pitchers make material gains. Some of them very fast, like Tolle. Some of them, Lucas Giolito was a very fast one. Aroldis Chapman was a very fast one, where there has been a really great kind of working dynamic between the pitchers and members of the pitching infrastructure that's helped to yield some pretty good results in a team that's that strength really has been the consistency of its pitching overall this year.
All right, let's hear the interview. You spoke with Justin Willard, director of pitching. Here's what he had to say about Payton Tolle and what he did coming into his Major League debut on Friday night. It's Justin Willard on 310 to Left, presented by your New England Ford dealers.
Joined by Red Sox director of pitching, Justin Willard. Justin, it's fantastic to see you, and a great opportunity to think about like the Payton Tolle experience, right? Because he's someone who represents in some ways kind of the first full arc player to come through the pitching infrastructure that you were provided, that you were hired to help the Red Sox recreate, right? So when you look at what's happened with Payton Tolle, from drafting him in 2024, and you were part of the evaluation process, part of kind of putting him on the board and saying that's a guy we want, to this moment in time where he's in the big leagues, a shockingly fast 13, 14 months later. How would you describe what's happened over the course of this very compressed period of time?
Yeah, like it obviously extremely compressed. It's the fastest player I've ever had move through a system. Ultimately, it comes down to we took a risk on a guy that had some funky attributes, but created incredible numbers at TCU. That there's some risk also on like strike throwing, really over reliance on the fastball, and then just kind of teaching him like how to be the best version of himself, how to add different things to the arsenal to maximize what's happening over the plate, and then how we value getting in the strike zone at a really, really high rate with great stuff. It also took a really, really special person in Payton of asking really good questions, being able to conceptualize what we're asking for, and then really just applying those things in the performance environment, which isn't always the easiest thing to do, to take a thing right from practice or right from catch play and say, hey, I'm going to go work on this against live hitters. Really, really special to see.
Yeah, well, for me, like there are a lot of shocking things that like it's startling to think about the growth of the pitcher over the course of such a small period, right? Because like at TCU, if memory serves, his fastball was sitting at 91.5 miles an hour, right? Like where maybe it was topping out around 94, 95 every now and again. Maybe there was a 96 in there, but this was a guy whose baseline was very different than the one that we see now. He did not throw a cutter, which was, and in fact didn't throw a cutter until the month of August, which became his second most prominent pitch in his big league debut. So let's start with the fastball, though. Obviously, like we've talked a lot about the fact that special attributes you mentioned, there's funk to it, that incredible release point. How much like when you were evaluating him as an amateur, were you like, that's a really special, weird delivery that's the part that's not that teachable?
Yeah, so you go into it when you're evaluating these guys, and it's like, okay, cool, let's understand what the fastball is doing to understand kind of where the floor is at. And even if we didn't add any velocity to Payton, there was still pretty high upside just because how unique the release characteristics were, the amount of lift he was able to get on it from those unique release characteristics. So it's like, okay, the floor is pretty high with this guy. If we can now add on velocity, there's exceptional results to be had.
And then there was a conversation about like what else he threw in college. And one of the kind of caveats to all of this is that in college he was a two-way player. And when you think about two-way players in college, like Paul Skeens was a two-way player in college when he was at Air Force, and then he goes to LSU and he becomes a full-time pitcher and like explodes, right? Do you think, is there something that's very appealing about guys who had been two-way players who you then channel into just one lane? And is there kind of that a unique potential for super rapid growth? It's worth noting, it's in this conversation as well, that the guy who you guys took in the first round this year, Kyson Witherspoon, had been a two-way player in college up until a couple of years ago at Oklahoma.
Yeah, I wouldn't say we focus on it, but it definitely provides or tells us like the aptitude of the player's ability to learn new skills. And then additionally just adds on a layer of athleticism that most POs or pitcher only guys from high school on don't necessarily get to work on or work through. And it does provide the opportunity to, okay, this guy understands how to move his body through space doing different things. And that's really, really important for their ability to make changes and their aptitude to do things in space.
So by the time Payton Tolle got to spring training, he was sitting on the backfields in live batting practice sessions that I was seeing at like 94, 95. And I was like, holy smokes, this is coming fast. When did you think, what was the first glimpse that you had this season that told you, this is a guy who, even though you were starting him in high A Greenville, like when was the first time that you thought, holy smokes, this is a guy who in his first professional season might have a chance to blow past the typical arc of player development, and we should be thinking about him as a potential big leaguer in 2025?
I think it really came down to his promotion to Portland, and then a couple adjustments we made with the changeup that took hold really, really quickly. And you're like, oh, wow, okay, he's still doing it at this high a level with these minor adjustments that we were able to make. And still, again, AA for me is when real baseball kind of begins. And he was able to play the game at a very high level.
And so again, like I mentioned some of the delivery adjustments, and the arsenal adjustments in college, like coming out of college last year, it was like, well, he has these breaking balls that move in interesting ways. We aren't really sure if it's going to end up being a curve or a slider or a slurve or a sweeper, or like, how would you, and then, the changeup was like, yeah, he kind of understands that you can change a grip and throw a changeup, but he didn't need it, right? Like, he didn't need any of this stuff because he could just beat everyone with his fastball in college. He didn't have a cutter. You guys have changed his grip. Like, how different is the mix of secondaries that he now has to offer compared to what you had seen from him at TCU?
Yeah, what we saw at TCU was just a gyro slider, an attempt at a sweeper, a changeup that was on plane with the fastball, so not really creating much depth. And honestly, it came down to watching a lot of Crochet, obviously, and seeing him perform and what that cutter was able to do. And then additionally, watching guys like Garrett Whitlock, who released the ball in a very similar manner to Payton. And it's like, okay, cool. What are the things we can learn from these guys to apply to Payton? And understand what's going to drive further results at the major league level. So that's where, obviously, as a left-handed pitcher, you're going to face a bunch of righties. So developing a changeup, but then also talking to Whitlock of, hey, if going back to your time in Double and AAA, would you add the sweeper or would you add the downer slider? Understanding the way your hand works at release, and he's like, oh, the downer. Like I would have loved to have that in Double A. And it's like, okay, cool. Maybe that's our next step for Payton to get down through to right-handed hitters and down and away from left-handed hitters. And then the cutter just came from, hey, we need to get a harder breaking ball somehow, something that's in that 88 to 90 range, and watching Crochet kind of be able to manipulate his to get it all top shelf into righties as well as down through to righties for swing and miss was just something that we learned from him and then applied to Payton as well.
Is the cutter that easy a pitch to add? Like, should I take it for granted that, Payton Tolle, you talked with him about, like, you had a bullpen session at like the very, very end of July and said, let's try the cutter. And then, he took it into his next start in, I think, like August 2nd or something in Portland. And then all of a sudden he's in the big leagues, like, 4 weeks later, and he's throwing 20 cutters and throwing it in the strike zone. Like, is that typical, or is that a reflection of Payton Tolle being different in terms of just his developmental pace?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's ultimately we have or better understand the recipe to get to these pitches, so we can give much better feedback, understand the interactions of the hand and the ball a little bit more than we have traditionally, to be able to apply this to the individual at a much quicker rate. But then additionally, like his ability to capture that and take it into games and trust it and develop in real time is, again, just special. You don't see very many guys like this. Perfect example I remember is Zebby Matthews when I was with the Twins. Like, we were in high A and he was changing his changeup grip every inning because we couldn't figure out why it wasn't breaking. And Payton is probably the next guy that I've seen that was willing to do things like that.
It is funny though, seeing the pairing of the fastball. It's, again, it's a different fastball, and like, actually, when you were watching that debut, like, you're very mindful of how he's been throwing this year. When you're seeing some 99s popping up in the first inning, is that thrilling, or are you like, oh my gosh, like, there's so much adrenaline coursing through him, I hope that this isn't like, that he's not flooring the car a little bit too hard?
Well, he told me before the game, he's like, I think I got 99 in the tank. I was like, not 100? Yeah, you knew the emotions were going to be high. Obviously, you saw that in the first inning. It was nice to see when he did kind of settle in the second through the fourth. There wasn't a huge drop off, but you could tell he was getting a little fatigued there towards the end. But yeah, he came into the game knowing he was gonna tick up. It's Friday night at Fenway, and you're wearing the new City Connects. So there's not a better time to debut.
It is interesting that you mentioned the fact that he was like, that he was tiring at the end, which you would expect given like all of the adrenaline rush that goes into those first couple of innings. But he was also getting pushed a little bit harder than he had in the last couple of months in the minors, right? You had capped him at 5 innings. You had capped him at around 73 pitches since, I think, June 22nd. That was the last time that he worked longer than that. How difficult is that to strike a balance between wanting to keep a guy fresh in his first professional season, right, where he's going to be achieving some innings career highs, but also wanting him to be prepared for like how he can make the biggest impact at the big league level?
Yeah, it's a tough thing to kind of balance. The way I've always thought about it is, in the minor leagues, you're really trying to develop skills, right? We're trying to develop skills that allow you to go 5, 6, 7, 8 innings in the big leagues. So let's really hone on the idea of training and training economy to maximize his ability to take these things in a game, understanding that we're not gonna empty the tank too much to where it's gonna affect his training the next time out. But additionally, you have a first-year player that threw 94 innings the previous year at TCU. So understanding that, okay, in the grand scheme of things, there's probably an arbitrary limit of innings we could probably get to. So how do we balance this idea of skill development, being prepared for the big leagues, and then also additional workloads from just a longer season? And yeah, that's always a interesting balancing act for sure.
It's a weird one for a two-way player. He doesn't have to swing. He doesn't have to hit anymore. So it's a really there's not a simple formula that you follow here, or is there, to suggest how much more he can throw this year?
It really just comes down to monitoring the athlete, right? It's both objective numbers as well as subjective of how he's feeling. So monitoring both those things in real time of, okay, are we seeing a decline in fastball velocity? Are we seeing anything from the medical space or the S&C space? How is he feeling, right? Do we notice that he's kind of a little bit more tired on day 2 or day 3 than he normally is? What are those bullpen velocities? All of these things kind of go into of like, okay, how can we truly evaluate where this player's at? And understanding like he's still a competitor and wants to go out and pitch. So we don't ever want to take the reins away from him, but we want to just communicate and make sure we're all on the same page with what the expectations are.
So you are wearing well, there's a little apparel talk. You're wearing the Beast shirt for Garrett Crochet, right? That is not a randomly selected bit of apparel for today. Am I correct that there's we talked about the fastball cutter profile that Tolle is running out and its similarities to Crochet. What do you got? What are you guys calling Tolle?
Well, Crochet decided the other day to drop the baby beast moniker on him. So, yeah, I don't know if that's going to stick. There's a bunch of other stuff out there, but Tolle's always Tolle. So, yeah, it's a pretty cool time to be around the Boston Red Sox. It was funny when Tolle was making his debut, Drohan was actually pitching as well. Obviously, we have Connolly early, we have Harrison in AAA, and it's like, hey, Brez, how many left-handed starters is too many? So it's an interesting time, that's for sure. But yeah, Crochet was calling him Baby Beast the other day, which I thought was funny.
Right. Well, with all the other lefties, you could have perhaps the whole Beast family. We can, we'll see. We'll see where that goes. But Justin, really appreciate the perspective and the insight, and and just fascinating to watch what's happening with that group of pitchers that you've identified, as well as some others, and the way that their development is being shaped. So really appreciate you joining.
Awesome. Thanks, Alex, for having me on, and yeah, excited to see the next wave of Boston Red Sox pitchers.
All right, so, I mean, Justin Willard's a behind-the-scenes guy, right? He's kept a pretty low public profile, but again, as we said before hearing from him, Alex, it's a good group they've got together. It's working really well right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was kind of priority number one when Craig Breslow was hired in 2024. It was, remaking the pitching infrastructure was his top priority, and that was, and that led to the hiring of Andrew Bailey, and also the hiring of Justin Willard. Like, he was investing. That was what was consuming them in that offseason. And now again, we don't like it's. I think that there's still a little bit more. You probably want more time to be able to identify, like, okay, this is repeatably effective. But the initial signs, especially in the 2025 season, have been pretty compelling in terms of the way that this group identifies talent, identifies strengths, and identifies ways of either amplifying or complementing those strengths in order to help pitchers be better versions of themselves.
And towards that end, right, we've got Lucas Giolito, signed 2 years ago, missed all of last year with the injury, now back. And, it was a bumpy return, as it often is in the early months, but we're starting to see consistency now. Had that brilliant outing, 8 shutout innings at Camden Yards against Baltimore, and then came back in his last outing against Pittsburgh and, trying to avoid a sweep. They'd lost 5 straight at home. I mean, that was an important start. And he didn't have his command. He walked 5. He had some trouble with it, but he was able to limit the damage and go 6 innings, give up just the 1 run. Sometimes for a veteran pitcher, Alex, those are the more important starts. The days where you don't have command, the days where you don't have your best stuff. Can you still turn in a quality start and hand it off to the bullpen? And he did.
Yeah, you have. So one thing that's really critical to being able to make the necessary in-game adjustments when you are off, to be able to find your way to competing in those moments, you have to have the foundation of reliable and repeatable mechanics, which you don't have when you're not healthy, and oftentimes it takes a while to reclaim them. It did for Lucas Giolito the first month or so of his return this year. Like, he was kind of flying blind a little bit because he didn't feel like he was locked into with his mechanics. Worked very hard with members of the Red Sox pitching group in order to be able to find the right delivery so that he could not only be the most effective version of himself, but also make adjustments when he was a little bit off. And I think that Sunday start was a pretty significant marker of his ability to do that, to make those in-game adjustments, finish strong, give the Red Sox 6 innings of 1-run ball, and continue what's been a really strong season as a very, very good number 3 starter for them.
No doubt about that. He spoke about that when he came by and visited us in the studio right after his start on Sunday. Great conversation with Lucas Giolito. Let's listen to that. Jonathan Papelbon, Jim Rice were here on the post-game show. Lucas Giolito joining us on 310 to Left, presented by your New England Ford dealers. 310 to Left is presented by your New England Ford dealers, who've been taking everyone out to the ball game at Fenway Park for decades. Catch Ford next time you're at Fenway, including in the Ford Clubhouse, a full-service bar perfect for bringing your lineup together and for recording our live edition of 310 to Left. It's all brought to you by your New England Ford dealers and F-Series, America's best-selling trucks for 48 years and the official truck of the Boston Red Sox. Lucas Giolito joins us now here in studio. Thanks for coming up after the start. Looked like command was a little bit of a battle for you today.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
5 walks, but we were just saying, and Dave O'Brien was saying at the end of the broadcast, like, when you're having a day like that and you can still turn in 6 innings, still turn in a quality start, how good does it feel that you're able to sort of navigate through it?
Yeah, it's good. It was really one inning. The fourth inning completely lost my mechanics, got out of sync, got really rotational. But, we were able to limit the damage there, just one run on the wild pitch. And, I told myself after that, got with Bales, we kind of figured out and diagnosed the issue. And then I told myself after that, all right, they don't get any more after this.
I'm not going to ask you about the non-strike call because the last thing we want is you getting fined from an appearance on this show. But sort of the mental challenge for that, right? You think you get it, you don't get it. Now you got to bet on. You walk the next guy, the wild pitch. That could get away from you there. How much of a battle is it mentally to get out of that and get a regroup?
Yeah, and it has got away from me. Not too long ago in San Diego, I'm sure you guys remember, completely got away from me, and I wasn't able to get out of that situation. But kind of took that as a little bit of a learning experience, and it paid off today, where despite frustrations with strike calling and then, losing command, losing the mechanics, we were able to just make a few good pitches to get out of the inning and then kind of fix it from there.
TC, I've been watching this kid since he came up with the Nationals. We came up together. And let me tell you something. This one thing that I've noticed with him is his in-game adjustments, right? He's making in-game adjustments like none other. And to me, that tells me he's on top of his game. And it seems like you're punching in a cheat code before you start every game. I mean, what is going on? Is it because you've gotten back on top of the baseball and you're making in-game adjustments? What has taken you to this next level?
I think it was the mechanical adjustment, getting my arm angle higher, so I was able to ride the fastball again, and then be able to command the top of the zone. Because if I can just stick heaters at the top of the zone, then it opens up everything for the off speed. The changeup's more effective, the slider's more effective, and so you can kind of go into starts like very confident. Whereas before. And I'm sure you know this, if the mechanics feel weird, like no matter what you tell yourself, you don't have that full level of confidence to a game. So once we fix that, it's like, okay, cool, now we go. If things get a little off, we're able to correct it. I know the cues. I know what to do.
That's awesome. It's great to see from you.
When did you guys first meet? Like, do you remember spring training? Was it?
Spring training.
Spring training at 16.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so he's a grizzled vet. You got to sort of, get him to sign off. Like, what was it like? Do you remember meeting Pap? What was he like back then? Because we remember him from back here.
I can't tell some stories.
Yeah, some of the stories are old too much. But no, Pap was a riot, man. He still is. Brought the energy big time.
Dude, when they won, you've seen the video, when they won here in 2007, and he's dancing on the mound with a Bud Light case on his head, like kids around New England went as Pap for Halloween, like with a case on their head. And,
What? Tell me that. What's it like pitching here at Fenway? Because to me, it seems like you hit another gear, man. Like, I mean, hell, your ERA is below. Well, I don't want to jinx you, but it's like at a 0.5 or something like that. It's got better today. But what is it about this place that you love pitching in, man?
The magic of Fenway, man.
Yeah.
It is, especially with where we're at in a playoff race. This is the most fun I've ever had playing baseball in the MLB. Every single game matters. The fans show out, whether it's a day game, night game, midweek, weekend. They're here. They're on their feet in the big situations. They're locked in on the game. We can feel that energy as players, and it just makes it really special.
Well, man, I'm happy for you, and I'm happy for your success, and I appreciate everything.
Two winters ago, is this what you envisioned? When you signed here, is this, you knew what Fenway can be. Is that what you saw happening?
Yeah, this is kind of what I was manifesting. And, unfortunately, I had to wait quite a long time, missing the whole year last year. But I feel very happy to be a part of it now.
The way this season has gone, none of that's taken. You can't take it for granted. You're coming back from the unknown. You're coming back from Tommy John. You come back from all that. And early on, you're sort of finding your way. How much are you appreciating this run you're having right now, the last 4 or 5 weeks, to start to get a consistency, to be in the middle of a play? It's all come together here.
Yeah, appreciating it big time, especially going back to what I just said, missing an entire year. It was my first time missing extended period of time since I was in the minor leagues, my first Tommy John. So, I was looking at it like whether I pitch well, don't pitch well, it's like enjoy being back out there, enjoy competing again, competing at the highest level against the best players and with the best players. And I think that kind of attitude is led itself to finding that success, being loose, having fun, all that kind of stuff.
You see a kid like Payton Tolle come in here Friday and make his major league debut. As kind of the old guy now, sorry, but one of the older guys in that rotation. What's it like to watch him sort of bright-eyed? He was telling us yesterday every time he got the ball back from Bregman, he's saying, "Thank you, Alex Bregman." Thank you, Alex Bregman. Like, how cool is it to see someone just embarking on it?
It's so much fun. It's so much fun, especially with how electric his stuff is. I was blown away the other night. I can't wait to see more. And what really got me was the level of energy he brought and the confidence he brought right out of the chute, like immediately. You probably know, like when I came up, I was young. I was 20, 21 years old. I was
very young,
extremely timid. I didn't have confidence in myself. I came into the league like, oh my God, this is this huge thing. It's like such a big step up, and I was very, very, very timid. Whereas a guy like Tolle, he came in, he's firing strikes, he's throwing 99 miles an hour. He knows his stuff is better than the hitters, and so I think that kind of attitude is going to lend itself to a lot of success.
TC, let me ask him one more question.
Sure.
We got to give them love. What is it like handing off to the guys in the bullpen with Witt and Chapman? I mean, how much faith do you have in them? How much confidence does it give you to go out there and pitch your game?
I know that I just need to put up some form of a QS.
Yep.
Like, I go out, I go 6, 7, 8, 9 would be a bonus. Limit the damage, 0, 1, 2, 3 runs. I know that the way that we can swing the bat and rally, that we're going to get a lead at some point, and the bullpen's just shut down.
Yeah.
You hand it off to them, and we're good to go.
Yeah.
It's always about the relievers, by the way.
Man, you got to give them a shout out, man.
They need their love. I get it.
Chapman is having it's not. The guy's 37 years old and he's having the best season of his career. This is an 8-time All-Star. Like, this isn't a guy who is suddenly finding it because he's had it. But to see him, when he showed up at spring training, you're like, whoa. You see him for the first time with a shirt on, you're like, this guy is a beast. It's remarkable what he's doing at this stage of his career, isn't it?
Yeah, I've never seen anything better. In my years playing, when he gets the ball, we know the game's over. To have that kind of level of confidence in your closing pitcher, it's really amazing.
It's 5 years, 6 years, 4 or 5 years ago, I guess, since you were last in the playoffs, right, with the White Sox. And I always say, like, guys who get that taste early on in their career, you had it early in your career, you're like, oh, this is what happens, right? And then you start to realize those playoff appearances are pretty sacred. They're pretty special. How anxious are you to get back to it and get that taste again?
I'm super excited. Yeah, really looking forward to it. But at the same time, you look at the standings, you look at the wild card. A lot of these teams are playing well. We need to stay on our game. Every single game matters. Every single win matters. And I think it's good practice, too, because we go into every single series treating it like a playoff series, then we'll be well prepared for when the playoffs do come.
That's a great point.
Yeah, not thinking ahead at all, but you know what good playoff teams are made out of is good top of the rotation, good back end of the bullpen, good hitting. You've got all that, right?
Yeah.
You, Bayo, and Crochet.
And defense.
And defense, obviously. But like, you guys have that top. Not to say, now you got Tolle and you got other guys who've done it. But to be part of that sort of 3 guys at the top right now, you're all handing it off to each other. Bayo tomorrow, Crochet the next day. That's got to give this group a lot of confidence that what happens in September could be sustainable beyond that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think we're in a position where we know our strengths. As a starting pitching staff, in the bullpen, defensively, offensively. So as long as we just go out and be ourselves, we're going to win games and be in a good position.
TC, they are who they are right now, the staff, right?
Yeah, but he's one of those little tricky guys. Go out and throw you a couple good fastballs. Next thing you know, look at another fastball, I'm going to change up. That's not fair. Is it fair?
Wait. Giolito, let me tell you. What would you do against Jim Rice? How would you punch Jim Rice out?
Try to avoid giving up a homer.
You got walked with the bases loaded once.
That's right.
Yeah, you got intentionally walked with the bases loaded once. They don't do that to many.
And one of the best pitchers, Jim Palmer.
Jim Palmer intentionally walked you with the bases loaded. Crazy. Can't let you go without the obligatory question about playing MLB The Show the night before, right?
Okay.
You do this the night before, right?
Yeah.
The day before. And does it ever go so badly but you see it through, or like?
I've been doing it for so many years that I know the game.
That's the cheat code.
I told you he's punching in cheat codes for a start. So yeah,
right.
Yeah. I know the game so well and the mechanics of it and how it works that it's less about my performance in the video game and more about I have my sheet, I have my iPad, I have all my information, and I'm just going through practicing the sequences I want to execute.
I would do the same thing. I would before I was in the bullpen, I would go through hitters just like I would. How am I going to pitch them? And I would go through that in my head, quickly before I went out there. So it's the same type thing.
Just a different way of visualizing.
It's a type of preparation.
But even though you're going through it, do you say yourself like man on first, nobody out, or something?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
That's too much. That's too much.
That's why you were here.
Yeah, that's too much.
Just get up there and swing. I'll ask you finally, you said the other day you're having such a blast, and this is so much fun. Talk about these fans a little bit, because it has, I said it's been full all year by and large, but the last month or so it's been different. It's a different energy. They're on every pitch. They know what's going on. Talk a little about what it's like playing for these fans.
Yeah, the passion they're showing is incredible. They're so in tune with the game. They're they're injecting confidence in us, and in these big situations, they get on their feet, they're clapping their hands. Like I said, Fenway's a special place to play, especially in the position we're in. So, yeah, keep it up, guys. You're doing a wonderful job helping us out. Big home field advantage here.
No doubt about that. Good one today. Thanks for coming up afterwards. We appreciate it.
Appreciate it, Gio.
Yeah,
appreciate it, buddy.
Lucas Giolito only worked up a little bit of a sweat on his way up there. We appreciate it. So, great conversation. And yes, as we said at the end there, when he first came in the studio, he was in a full sweat. Because as we know, it doesn't take a lot for Lucas Giolito to sweat through his third shirt at any moment. But it was a big crowd. It was a warm day, so we'll forgive him that. I found it really interesting, Alex, when he talked about Tolle, watching a young guy making his major league debut, and how impressed Giolito was that Tolle could kind of just be himself. I mean, he's got great stuff, but you heard him. I mean, he said, when I first came up, I was really timid. I was really quiet. I was just trying to fit in. I was so worried about, it took me a while, years, he was saying, to really sort of let me be myself while competing on the mound. It's interesting. I think that's, with pitchers especially, not everybody can do that. Pap, of course, was Pap, right? But even he sort of had to become Cinco Ocho, right? Like that persona as a closer came to him when Alex Cora sort of created the alter ego. And as we pointed out in the show just there, that was not a sustainable lifestyle. So he is no longer Cinco Ocho. Okay, you just in your 40s, that is really not sustainable. But it is interesting that Tolle has been able to just come out and be himself while being really good on the mound as a pitcher.
I think that he's a kind of extraordinary person. You hear that a lot from people who have been around him, and it really doesn't take a long time for people for him to feel comfortable being his authentic self around people, and for people to really enjoy that version of him. And you see it. We saw it the day after that start. The way that he was interacting with Crochet and Giolito, like he had known them for years and years. He had known them for 2 days. They didn't have any interaction with him in spring training. He wasn't in big league camp. But this is a guy who, there's just an ease around him that people with the Red Sox love, and he's obviously he does a lot to honor his late mother, Gina Tolle, who was by all accounts an extraordinary and vibrant and just kind of glowing human being, and I think that he inherited many of those wonderful traits from her, and he wants to honor that.
I don't usually like to tease something that is not set in stone, but we believe we will be getting Payton Tolle for the next edition of 310 to Left. You and I have been working on this, talking to Payton, and it's not any kind of difficulty. They just, he's still sort of learning his schedule on a day-to-day basis. He's I don't think I can tell them I need time for a podcast. So we'll get to that as we get to a couple night games here. I do want to tell a story real quick. We had our text thread, the three of us. You and I were talking to Payton, and he was telling us, I can't do it today. And I was in the middle of talking to our producers at NESN. So all of a sudden, you and Payton were getting my blasts about what should be in the show. They've lost 5 in a row, and the defense really isn't very good of late. All of a sudden, you're texting me, you're sending this to us. And then Payton's like, should I be hearing this? And just the way, when I saw him in the clubhouse, how he laughed that off. Again, another indication of how comfortable he is in all of this, when a lot of people wouldn't be.
Yeah, I mean, and we'll see. There's probably going to be a hiccup outing somewhere in there, right? Baseball is hard, and so that'll be a different set of circumstances. But it's great to see someone players work really hard to be up in the big leagues, and it's kind of cool to see them being able to enjoy it when they get there. You should be able to enjoy these kind of momentous occasions in your life, and so good for him for kind of having that effervescent personality on the mound in the middle of in the middle of all the chaos.
I will try to be better with texting the correct people too. That is what I learned out of the
just so
the
long, Tom, as you remain effervescent.
Yeah, that's me. Mr. Effervescent, maybe not so effervescent in September as we were in April, but here we are, the playoff race upon us. Again, we hope to have Payton Tolle in our next edition, but we'll wrap it up here for now. Alex, it was fun. Thank you. Alex Speier.
It was great, Tom. 30 years and 3 days.
That's my Payton Tolle impersonation. I'm going to thank Alex Speier at the end of every episode. Thank you, Alex Speier.
It's a delight, Tom Caron.
We will catch you next time. Thanks for checking it out. It's 310 to Left, presented by New England Ford Dealers and F-Series, the best-selling truck in America for 48 years, and the official truck of the Boston Red Sox. For the aforementioned Alex Speier, I'm Tom Caron. We'll see you again next time.